on this episode of The Strange Medicine of Alice Strange.
I like to think of the Fool as a story, and that story is representative of a cycle in your life. And you're going to go through very many cycles in your life. You're going to be the Fool many times over. I mean, around the time we sort of like joked about it more than confronted it, I think, that there was a shadow man upstairs, and I would see him all the time. While we were there, we were channeling a man. His name was Tim, and he would not stop flirting with me. It was so funny. And I think he felt so comfortable because I was tuned in and I was tapped in. If it helps one person feel more comfortable in their practice, then I feel so good about being that vulnerable and getting it out there.
Hello, Seekers, and welcome to The Strange Medicine of Alice Strange. I'm Alice Estrella Strange, and today we are talking to Shannon Gausepohl. Shannon Gausepohl is the creator and intuitive behind Siren Books, which is an entirely online bookstore rooted in tarot and literature. She also publishes essays on her site detailing her journey into the practice and her intuitive and paranormal experiences. Her work includes writing, intuitive tarot reading, book selling, and event management, and more. In this interview, we talk about how archetypes show up in tarot, books, magic, and life. We both share some paranormal experiences we've had, and we talk all about learning and healing through tarot. And surprisingly, we both found out that we work with Hecate, and I know a lot of you here love Hecate. I have to say, this interview was one of my best by far and the most channeled I've ever done, so I'm very excited to share it with you. But before we jump in, if you don't know me yet, hi, I'm Alice. I assist people in connecting to their spirit team, natural wisdom, and mastering their practice through empowered witchcraft mentorship and shadow healing. The Modern Mystic Academy will be launching in January, where you can learn the essential basics of witchcraft and deep dive into a topic over the course of a month. The first month will be all about crafting sacred smoke blends, and you'll learn everything in a private community of other Academy members. Plus, you'll get a box full of supplies and herbs and everything you need to put together your own smoke bundles, plus some exclusive products of my own. You'll be able to sign up for the Academy very, very soon, but for now, you can join the waitlist at the link below. You can also check out my links for my free community and everything else I do there, too. And if you like magic, spirituality, and using them to better your life, be sure to subscribe or follow to take the first step toward finding empowerment. Now, let's get into this beautifully channeled interview. Welcome, Seekers, to The Strange Medicine of Alice Strange, the podcast where modern science meets with what lies beyond what we can see. Here, we delve into psychology, spirituality, science, and the occult. Each episode will explore the bigger questions of existence, the nature of the soul, our internal world, and how we can understand them through spirituality and magic. This podcast is a sanctuary for the soul. Alongside science and spirituality, we also learn the power of compassion and the magic of extending kindness to others. For in the act of giving, we receive. In the act of teaching, we learn. This is a journey into the depths of the mind as well as the heart, where every lesson is a step toward oneness, every insight a bridge to understanding, and every act of kindness a spell that transforms the world. So join me, Alice Estrella Strange, on this journey of self-discovery, scientific wonders, ancient knowledge, and finding the strange medicine within yourself. Hello and welcome, Shannon. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Oh, I'm so excited. So, can you tell us a little about yourself and who you are and what you do?
I'm Shannon. I'm the Siren of Siren Books. I sell books, read tarot. I'm a writer, and I also work and plan events. I've been reading tarot and a psychic medium, well, at least a psychic medium my whole life, but reading tarot and studying tarot for a little over a decade. But this is, the first iteration of me doing it professionally. So this is really lovely and exciting because I get to connect both literature and tarot together, very archetypical storytelling, and also get to write about it and my experiences as a psychic medium and bring tarot into the fold and sort of the amalgamation of Siren Books. And you can go to the website to buy books or set up time with me to get a tarot reading. And it's fun and conversational, like we're friends, old pals, and we're just talking about you and what messages Spirit have for you, and that's sort of that's Siren Books, really.
And I love what you do with Siren Books. I've only just kind of dipped my toes into exploring that, but I think it's a really great resource for people out there. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what that is foundationally about?
So foundationally, just I love reading and I love books, and as I was putting Siren Books together, Spirit and my guides were really pushing me to say, like, what you've been keeping hidden needs to come to light, essentially, has been the biggest message from Spirit truly this entire the last couple of years, 18 months. And when I was getting ready to launch, it was actually sort of an audible, and I made the call to start adding into tarot reading. I had been doing it for free with friends and former coworkers, and it just felt right to make it happen. And in that audible, I was able to develop products, so to say, um, on the website that offer both of them together, essentially. So I'll do tarot readings with, just like we'll go through like a true blue tarot reading, and then about 48 hours later, I intuitively offer a curated book list that you can go shopping or retrieve from your library, however you want to read these books. The point is to read the books and have them meet you where you are based on your reading, along with other tarot offerings. So that's sort of where it all comes together, I guess, in it, like at a head, like at the crossroads, as Hecate would probably prefer me say. But that all together, that's really what Siren Books feels like. I it's so silly. It feels silly to say, like so like pithy, but I like to answer what you're like, call out to what you need and answer what's calling to you, whether that's books, whether that's tarot, whether that's intuitively guiding you through your business. But yeah, that's sort of how I'm talking a lot, but essentially that's what it is. It's just what feels right for me and allowing you to come through with your intuition, however that presents itself.
Oh, I love that. Such a great message altogether. And I have to say, we're such a big fan of Hecate here. I didn't know you were a fan. We are
Oh,
here for sure.
yeah, she's a it's funny because I would when she presented herself to me, I guess we'll take a detour down
Yeah,
a
sure.
crossroad, but she had been calling out to me what I didn't realize was for years, and that's because I was avoiding my gifts and I was scared of them, which I think is a very common feeling for people in the practice. Like, it's very common for us to feel like this isn't right because it isn't what is proposed to us as what is available to us as professionally sound or even personally sound, depending on what our communities are, or even in familial structures, it might not be a safe place. Not necessarily for me, but that's not saying for many of us. So when she called out to me and I answered, my practice sort of took off, like really hit the gear, and we went um, really move things forward. And I think she does play a role into how how I practice my mediumship and really dig into the divine feminine that has taken me so long to lean into and say, like, yeah, girl, that's me. That's me.
Oh my gosh. Can relate on so many levels. I love that. What a little synchronicity there.
Isn't that the loveliest part about the universe? I've received a message actually last week while I was journaling, but I've been asking the universe for things, and I think what I've been missing is maybe the disconnect between where I started with my faith and where I am now. But essentially, the message from my guides was, you're not asking the universe, you're conspiring with the universe. We're like partners in crime. So asking the universe is being patient with the universe and being patient with yourself. And I think Hector plays a big role into that. And she's always so patient. And I think that is a divinely feminine trait. But she's also, lean into your dark side, girl. You mad, you be mad, because that's how it is. Mm-hmm.
Goodness. Yes. And anger is so healing too. I think that is such a thing
Mm-hmm.
people overlook. Goodness. And
Yes.
and I can relate to that message you received as well. I also got a message back in September about like you're asking your guides too many questions. Like, ask
Mhm.
yourself. Like, they're here to learn from you too. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool thing that comes through for a lot of people, but it's hard to embrace that kind of power for sure.
And I have to say it's nice hearing it from you too, because there is like this collective tapping into that's part of this role of being a medium or connected or psychic or a guide or whatever you want to call it. And having other people validate that they're feeling and receiving the same things, especially since these guides communicate with the collective, with so many of us. So to be on the same page is like, hey, so glad you're here.
Didn't know
This
we
is
were here
great.
together, but here we
Yeah,
are.
yeah. Like the universe again conspired, and now here we are.
And here we are. Wow, how beautiful. Well, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yeah, so we love a detour though. We love a
We
nice little
sure do.
detour.
I love a good ramble here. So I guess the first thing I want to ask is about archetypes. I am obsessed with archetypes. I use them so much in my life and in my practice
Mhm.
and my teachings and things. So how do archetypes play into your practice and your life?
I would say going back to the books and tarot, literature is very magical in a very literal sense to me. And just being a prolific reader, I read 100 books last year. I
We love that.
haven't done as well this year, but tides, life ebbs and flows, books ebb and flow. And in the exercise of reading, because reading's not just a hobby, it's a skill, you learn how to absorb the different people, archetypes, feelings, representative archetypes, and how they affect not just your life, but the life of everyone around us and the world around us. And um, it, it's kind of partially what made tarot easier. I wouldn't say so easy because the tarot is a study. It's you're never going to perfect it. You're just going to understand it better and learn the language in such a way that you can teach others or allow others to receive. And books are not so dissimilar. The way I teach or talk about tarot when I'm offering a reading or just talking shop with somebody is I like to think of the Fool as a story. And that story is representative of a cycle in your life. And you're going to go through very many cycles in your life. You're going to be the Fool many times over. And that's not unlike a main character in a novel. That you're reading a cycle of a season, you're reading a season or a cycle of life for this character. And you're going to see, the Emperor, the Tower, uh, the High Priestess. You're going to see these different versions, these different archetypes woven into these character structures and people you're reading and learning about. I mean, this is fiction and nonfiction because you see the structure no matter how you're storytelling. Now, that's just the major arcana. The minor arcana is the texture, the feeling, the colors, the smells, the pieces that push that story forward, much like the details in a book, much like the foils in a book, or a discovery in a book, or having second thoughts about something. The minor arcana colors in that structure, gives it feeling. And I think that's really truly, to me, the feeling of the tarot and the feeling of what it means to be a magical practicing being, that we get to live this archetype several times, several lifetimes over, not just right now in this moment right here, but several lifetimes over. And we get to rediscover those connections as we practice, as we read. And that's not just me, that's anyone who engages with this. And I think it's very important that the two, to me and maybe to many, aren't so dissimilar, and that connection can be enlightening or exciting or fun for other people. And I want other people to feel welcomed into that and to feel celebrated when they discover that too.
I love that. Your description of the major arcana, minor arcana is beautiful. I love that. I could not have said that any better.
I mean, as someone, I'm sure, I know you're a reader yourself, right? There's got to be books you can just pull off the top of your noggin, right? And be like, oh God, this book just reminds me, or this character reminds me of this card. So next year, actually, I'm hoping to launch my first one before the end of the year. But next year I'm going to be doing characters and cards. So character analysis and cards. And my first one is Tybalt from Romeo and Juliet and the Tower, because he is the Tower moment of that entire play, movie, whatever you want to, whatever source you want to talk about. But I love the antagonist or the tower of it all, because it really makes you pull out and examine the why did it happen this way? Like, why was it such a big destructive moment? And I think Tybalt really encompasses that. And I plan to do that for characters and music and TV reality stars and whomever, because they're a really great way to not just learn the tarot, but to like get nerdy about stuff that I really enjoy.
I think that's a great excuse to just dive into all your favorite little things.
Vanderpump Rules is begging me to do a character analysis with the major arcana.
Love it. I love that. So, another question I'd like to ask is, we have archetypes in tarot, in books, in everything, but those also come in play when we're talking about real life people. And I would
Yeah.
love to pick your brain about what archetypes do you see the most just in your daily life, in just average people?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh my gosh, what a thoughtful question. Thank you for that. I I think I see them all in some regards, right? Like sometimes I'm the empress and sometimes I'm the high priestess, but sometimes I'm also the emperor, because I'm leaning into my divine masculine and I'm standing strong in the roots that I've built in the kingdom I've built, right? That's something I see in myself. But in other people, um, depending on where they are in their stories, sometimes I meet the fool, sometimes I meet people or talk with people who are going on some type of journey themselves and are blissfully uh unaware is not the word, but unaware is part of the fool, right? But blissfully uh oh man, this is when spirit gets me caught up, because I feel like I'm channeling a little bit with what I'm delivering, but it trips me up on words too. So essentially, they're setting out on something with high expectations, not understanding what they could come in contact with. And I kind of like to see that, because I had to learn for myself as the fool too. Um, Sometimes I meet people and find out later that they were a tower in my life. They were a tower moment, a tower person, a tower of significance in my life. And while that's not comfortable, life is a series of uncomfortability. We just need to learn to deftly navigate. And while I didn't love those periods of fraught uncomfortability, I'm grateful. I learned from it because now I know better. Um, and I see that like truly constantly. And I think something I have to give credit to for the tarot and for the study of it all is tarot being a tool of emotional navigation to help me better emotionally regulate, especially someone with ADHD, diagnosed OCD, and all the baggage that comes with it, the life experiences that left me brokenhearted or lost or whatever it may be. And having the tarot to help me identify why I felt that way or what it looks like when I feel that way, whether or not I understood how I was channeling that information, but it gave me the language to get through it in ways that maybe other tools haven't.
I think that's a really great way to look at tarot. I always say it's so great for self-reflection and like
Yes.
digging into those details. But I think another piece is a lot of places where you look about, if you're looking up the meaning of a card, it'll give you a lot of like, try this, do this thing. Like, are
Mm-hmm.
you doing this? And it gives you a lot of things right there in front of you. You can find it everywhere.
See, I love that you said that. Because for me, I don't always go by the word of the book when I read, mostly because I'm not, or you're not, or whoever, usually the person reading isn't reading for someone who is well versed in what we're doing. Sometimes being able to metabolize exactly what the picture looks like is enough to get the message through. And that is the point of tarot, is the message, it's the feeling. The sword card number is, see, ADHD. But the sword card number is I think I want to say it's Seven of Swords, where he's holding all the swords
Hmm.
and there's some on the ground, but there's some in his hand. Like, I love that card because I love to explain, like, what is plaguing your logical mind right now is because of what you're actually carrying. But what it says in the book isn't directly in line with that. But if the feeling of the card matches the feeling of what I'm channeling from the client, from the person, then that's the message they need to receive. And I really love that about the cards. You get to interpret, you get to decide. Read the book, understand the roots and the bases of all you're doing for sure. However, the beauty of interpreting media, tarot, what makes the most sense for you is you get to say, here's what I think belongs to you. And the person on the other end has free will. They don't have to they don't have to take it, they don't have to receive it, they don't have to agree with it, but they know that they're going to take something with them and leave the rest, much like that card. So I do really enjoy the interpretive aspect of card reading. Mm-hmm.
And I also love that. I think when you're starting out, it's so important to really dive into the roots, the symbolism.
Yes.
And I personally, I'll share my favorite card to blab about is the Five of Wands. The
Great
Five of
card.
Wands, right? You've got all these people in the different cultural clothing and the missing shoes, and they're not actually hitting each other. They're just all tizzied up. I think that one is
Yeah.
such a fun one to explain to people because it's like, no, this is, this is pointless, but my personal interpretation, if you take this energy and transmute it, it can be a powerful energy for change. And I think it's such a, especially in business settings, that's such a great card to come up, honestly.
I love that. Yeah. Sometimes, and I also love that the battle can be a passionate internal battle.
Mhm.
And the reason you're feeling embattled is because you're battling your own insecurities that you think is other people, but it's really your insecurities reflecting back onto you. And it's not actually them. Like, you're just fighting yourself, homie. Like, let's chill out a little bit.
Yeah, that's another thing tarot does. It tends to call us out a little bit. I think we need that though.
I agree. I always say that tarot is a reflection. I usually explain to clients, like, this is a reflection of you. I'm channeling what your guides are giving my guides, what your ancestors are giving my ancestors, and it's being spelled out by the cards. So I'm not here to tell your future. I don't know what your future is because I could say spirit is saying XYZ, but you could decide to go ABC, right? So I have no idea what's going to happen, but now you have better information to make a decision about what's next. Maybe you didn't have this before. And I think that's where people maybe misconstrue the fortune telling nature of it all, right? But I agree. And one of my favorite cards is the devil. I love the devil card. I think it's a beautiful reflection of self that is a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
I'm a really big fan of, oh, the Devil's such a good one. I think that's a
Yes.
really good card to come up. I think my favorite has to be the High Priestess, closely followed by the
Yes.
Fool. Very classic, but
Oh,
those
yeah.
are,
Classic. I would say the high priestess and the star for me because I'm an Aquarian. And that's where the star, I have the star tattoo.
oh,
Uh,
that's so, I love that. I love
Thank
that.
you. Representative of like my feminine self and the star. You know, the star is also a sun. So I sometimes see the star, temperance, and the sun all as like cousin cards or sister cards. They all feel very similar to me. And look, guys, don't get in the comments. I know temperance represents Sagittarius, which is funny we say that because we're in Sag season. However, if you look at the star card and you look at temperance, there's a little bit of water bearing going on. Just all that's all I'm saying.
It's a good point.
That's all I'm saying.
I personally love the Fool, just that optimistic, like, I don't know where I'm gonna end up, but I'm gonna take that leap. Like, I'm just gonna trust and fall and see where I land. And I think, yeah, that's my Sagittarius rising, where it's just like, oh, let's just blah blah blah. Yeah.
Also, there's a dog in it, and you don't see dogs again. I believe. No, maybe I'm wrong. I believe till the moon card in the major arcana, but you do see them again. I believe in the minor arcana.
It's a good point.
Like
That's
so,
a good
so
point.
like the
Mm-hmm.
fool and the moon. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
the underlying anxieties of it all, but at the end of the day, you're still being loyal to yourself.
That's such a good, I'm gonna have to ponder that on my own time. I love that.
Channeled message. something maybe you needed to talk about or hear. My dog's over here too, so these dogs are always on my mind.
My dogs usually are not in here when I record, and they're chilling today. So it's funny that this would
Oh,
come up.
oh, I love that.
So I am a fan of the Rider Waite art, the symbolism, all of the layers. I'm obsessed with that. And I hate the art style. So personally, I love decks that remaster it into like a moody or an exciting art style, but they're the exact same images. And I would love to hear your take on the Rider Waite style and like how you feel about the Rider Waite in general.
So when I first started the practice, I I've done the unpacking and the shadow work since, but I didn't feel deserving of using the Rider Waite Smith deck, and I think that's because I felt like it's something that should be bestowed, and it felt more regal than I believed I was permissive to have or be in possession of. And once I worked that out, once I got over and got past some of my religious stuff and like really dug into the Rider Waite, I've come to have such an appreciation and love of the Rider Waite Smith deck. Um, it's it takes from Toth, it takes from Mercé, it takes from the history of it all, and I'm a Reformed Catholic, and I talk about this on my website and how that plays into all of this. But like going through it was very eye opening because a lot of the imagery is very Catholic and saint like, and story of the cross is always on the walls of a Catholic church. And I felt like I was seeing pieces and parts of that style or that feeling in the cards itself, which helped me feel comforted in what this journey ended up becoming. It's not my preferred deck. I learned off the Aquarian deck because I'm an Aquarius sun. And when I started out, I didn't have much direction in what I should do. Mostly, I wasn't going to get gifted a deck. I knew that wasn't going to happen. And by the way, guys, you don't have to be gifted a deck. You can just find something and say, I like that, and go learn, just
Gift it
for
to
the record.
yourself. Just make yourself.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Treat yourself. Get that deck. You like it, you love it, get it. And that's what I did with the Aquarian deck. And I recently reconnected with it. And my God, that's a gorgeous, gorgeous deck. The importance to me is the feeling of what you need to get the message through. If you're a tried and true Rider Waite Smith, go for it. That's what you need to do because that's how the message present themselves for you. Me personally, I need to have like a little riz in my deck, a little attitude in my deck, a little like hey now going on with what's happening with my deck. I recently got the Ethereal Visions deck. My God, my God, what a gorgeous deck! And there's two added like major Arcana cards. Oh my God, look at this first card I'm pulling out. This is the Ace of Cups.
We
It's
love her.
gorgeous.
That's
It's
so pretty.
pretty. It was created by Matt Hughes. Um, but my God, it feels very divine feminine to me. It's just so gorgeous. Oh yeah, here's one of the ones I was talking about, the Well.
Hmm.
It's like it's an added major Arcana card. I'm still not in tune with what that card does or really is, so I can't give you a whole lot at this moment. However, look at this, just
Oh,
gorgeous.
that's so
Just,
pretty. I
yeah,
love that
and
art.
gorgeous, gorgeous deck. I also use the Bianco Nero deck a lot, which is just sexy and black and white and like has this really gorgeous sexual energy. Is this not the deck? No. Oh, it is. Okay. I was like, did I bring it over? I wanted to talk about it. If it came, here we go. And then the Page of Cups came out. Oh my gosh, Spirit is loving this today. Gorgeous. Look at that. Just beautiful deck. And it new ideas coming in, guys. Um, Ace of Swords. It has the spirit of the Rider Waite Smith. But
I really like that art style. That's gorgeous. The black and white.
it's stunning. It's beautiful. Rider
Mhm.
Waite Smith. I said, oh my gosh. Spirit makes me jumble my words sometimes.
Mm.
But my feeling on it is just Does it make sense for you? Does it evoke something in you? Like the wands, does it feel like it's waking up a fire inside of you? Then that's what you should be reading with, and that's what you should be feeling. If you want to go back to the classics, do it. There's no right way to do this. The only wrong way is to not dive into what you can learn and dive into how you can, if you're looking to divine, offer message, offer guidance, offer messages to yourself. But you don't need to divine with it. You don't need to do anything with it. If you don't want to do this for or with other people, you never have to. I always recommend to people who are not called to do this with divinity or do this with spirit guides or whatnot, because you have to have that boundary prepared. Um, use it for journaling, use it for emotional regulation, use it to figure out how you feel about something. And that can be private and personal. And I think that's another really great way to do it, which goes back to what we initially started with, right? Like this is a really great way for you to metabolize the world around you without having to be uncomfortable in journaling if that's not for you. You can just pull the cards and write down what they were on that day. And when you want to go back, maybe you have the thoughts now a couple days later or a month later and say, I pulled these cards and now I recognize this is why I felt that way, because this is what happened. And I think that's the gift of the cards to us all, truly.
That's absolutely, absolutely. I think tarot doesn't have to be even spiritual or woo or witchy. It can be just you and a deck of cards reflecting with yourself. And I think that's, whether you think there's anything other than just a deck of cards or not, it's still a really great tool for self-reflection, healing, all of those things.
Yeah, and I also think it's fun. It's just fun. Like, do you want to play games with it? Go ahead, play games with it. Play games with yourself. Do you need to? I saw a creator, Lauren B. She's an excellent resource for tarot knowledge, and she's so fun to watch. Ripping apart one of her cards because that's how she needed to express herself with that card on that day. And you know what? It's her deck, and she gets to, and that's powerful. I don't think people realize they can give themselves permission to do those things because you wish to carry that out. Hey, as long as you're not hurting anybody or yourself or mentally hurting or whatever, anybody else or what, even yourself, you know what I mean? Just go out and do it. Just do it. And if that's expressing yourself with the tarot cards, if that's gluing them to a tri-fold poster board like you're in middle school science fair, go do it. Have fun with it. Make PowerPoints with it. Who cares? Make them talk to each other like you're playing Polly Pocket. It doesn't matter. Go have fun with it. And that's my biggest encouragement. Just try. Just try.
I think that's a really good way to put it. Like, there's no wrong way to do it. There's no wrong way. As long as you're not hurting anyone or doing anything unethical, there's no wrong way. So,
there's also a gazillion resources to learn.
yeah.
There's books, there's TikTokers if you don't want to read, there's YouTubers if you don't want to use TikTok, there's blogs, there's a million ways to learn, and there's room for all of us who read and work with tarot. There's no two readers who are exactly alike, ever. You will never find two people who are give you the same messages the same way. You might get the same messages because you're going to need them regardless. They're not going to deliver it in the same way, maybe not with even the same cards. It's going to be the same words, different fonts. As long as you're getting what you need, then that's what you need to be doing.
I love that. It's absolutely true. Absolutely. And so I'd love to segue into a little bit about your essay that you wrote.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about that. What's that essay about, ma'am?
I have several essays, but the one we're talking about has to do with the devil card. So I'm a writer. I have my degree in journalism, and it's been a long time since I've written for the sake of expression and interest and intrigue, and I've turned the spotlight on me in this case. And in this essay, I discuss my Catholic faith and how that guided me to becoming a witch. Guys, you'd be so surprised. We're not. um, how the pagan wheel of the year matches the calendar of Catholicism. Um, and a lot of that's because of how it was taken from the pagan culture, among other cultures who were impeded by the Catholic Church. Um, but to me, that felt like transferring credits. And I don't fault my Catholic faith for how it affects me still to this day. I absorbed it at a very young age and for a very long time in my life. And it's sort of always been like a background character. And as I was studying witchcraft or paganism or tarot or whatever you want to call it, I don't need to put a label on it. I'm just not part of an institution. I reflected on how I used to want to be a priest. And it sort of hit me like, that's the Hierophant card almost. Well, yes, it is. But it hit me that I wanted to be the Hierophant, that I wanted to be the priest, that I wanted to be the person doing the magic. Even at a young age, I was understanding that what the priest was doing on the pulpit was magic. It was ritual. It was ushering to through the veil, consorting with spirit. And to be told it is for me but not for thee kind of messed with my head a little bit and made this journey a little confusing. And I sort of wanted to put it out there because that's not uncommon, whether or not you're Catholic or another faith or another sect of Christianity, whatever. Um, it's okay that you're feeling internally conflicted about the whole thing. I've recently started revisiting the Bible even because it's history, it's a history lesson, a lot about relations in that part of the world, but relations between religions, relations between perceived prophets, Muhammad in one case, none in another case, and Jesus in this case, and how it plays into astrology, how it plays into the tarot, how it plays into the wheel of the year, how it feels in your feelings of performing magic. And then I dove deeper. I like opened the folder more, I guess, so to speak. And I reflected on the devil card and the Lord's Prayer and reflected on the deliver us from evil line specifically, where it's forgive us for forgive those who trespass against us. And it kind of, again, it hit me where it was like, oh, well, that's just saying I need to learn how to forgive myself when I don't know how to get out of my own way, in the same way that I forgive others who trespass against me, who do wrong against me when they can't get out of their own way. And I just thought that was like a holy shit kind of moment, and um, made me feel a lot more comfortable in what I was doing and a lot more grounded in this reality of like, I am a complicated spiritual being as much as a complicated earthly being as well. And I just expressed everything. It was just like a trauma slash exciting slash revelation dump all at once. And I've crafted several essays since then because I feel like I'm being called to do it, so I'm going to continue to do it. But I just if it helps one person feel more comfortable in their practice, then I feel so good about being that vulnerable and getting it out there.
And I myself, left my Christian faith a long time ago and have processed a lot of that. And I still was like, oh, like this is even healing for me. Like this is even something that helps me feel a little bit better about that time in my life. And so highly recommend. I'll link that down in the description of the episode for people to check it out if they want. But I also want to say that all of your essays are gorgeously written. Like the way you just like
Thank you so
describe the
much.
landscapes and I was reading your folklore. Love that. Love that.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm obsessed with folklore. So I'm from Jersey. Jersey is a wonderful place. I do not care what the haters have to say. Argue with a wall, argue with your mom, don't really care. It is amazingly accepting of the wild and the weird in the most paranormal, amazing way. We have this publication called Weird New Jersey, and it chronicles ghost stories and weird places and haunted places and folklore to visit. And that was always like a Bible to me as a kid. Like a different, separate, like, oh yeah, like folklore is history. Folklore is magic. Folklore is the movement of time. And to me, the magic I experience doesn't feel dissimilar to the magic of folklore and how it matures and grows. And I I tap into like the growth of it on the internet, but the ties to like a very small piece of Jersey folklore. And I just really love how it's all woven together as like this is crazy that it can go from this to this and be as entertained as you are by the folklore of it. I love it. I love the exploration of folklore, like the fit, like truly like physical exploration, landing in these places and walking them and visiting them, which Weird New Jersey highly recommends and is not uncommon as a Jersey teen to write up a list of places you're going to go and road trip with your friends, and how that translates not just to this country or even my state, but like other countries and their folklore and how that plays into their spiritual and magical practices. And that essay is just me completely nerding out about how much I love all of it.
I'm such a fan of the paranormal, of folklore, especially cryptids. Like all of that stuff is fascinating to me. And whether you believe it or not, we can learn a lot about humanity and ourselves from those
Yeah.
things. And so I also was just like eating that up. I loved it so much.
Thank you so much for reading it. I'm so appreciative. It's so fun for me to write and to learn that people are having fun reading it. Just fuels my fire. Like I'm preparing another essay, so I'm excited to get that out. Hopefully before the end of the year, but we'll see.
I love it. Can't wait. Do you mind sharing what it's about? A little teaser?
A little teaser. Kind of ties into the Jersey folklore. Jersey seems to be a big thread this year. With everything. Not to say that it's not for everybody, but I have to say New Jersey is a very weirdly powerful place, magically, paranormally, folklorically. And I'm sort of revisiting an intense experience I had in college in a location that was incredibly haunted, and how I felt rejected by the location itself, and exploring like, can you be rejected from a place? Can you be like spiritually rejected from a place? And is that the experience I was actually experiencing? And maybe recovering some memories, because there's pieces I don't remember because it was very intense. However, um, it's not worth exploring, and I'm past the feelings it used to give me, and I've grown from it, and I've done a lot of healing this year specifically, but I feel like I want to just like get it out there, get the poison out. And that's what it'll be about. I started writing it a couple months ago, and I've put it down, and I've since picked it back up. So I'm excited to get that one out.
Sounds like you had a little bit of a tower moment, but you're in the star card at this point. So love that for you.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yes, that's great. Yes, that's a really great way to put it. Which is
Oh,
so interesting because Pluto's now in Aquarius. Was
that's a good point.
2024 the tower year? Are we now going into a star year? Look, I get it. Election stuff aside, bigger macro aside. Personally, for people, could we be moving into, because it's an air sign, right? A logically different type of energy star year? Hey, I'm hopeful.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And so that kind of leads me into the paranormal stuff. We love the paranormal here, so let's dive into that.
Oh
I
yeah.
love that. I love your little, especially the little tombstone. That's so cute. Oh my gosh.
BFF on it.
BFF. Oh, I love that. Oh, your little, he's a little, okay, if you're not watching the video, she has a seagull with this witch hat. And it's so cute. He's so goofy.
Yeah, so I'm spooky, spooky all day. I love spooky everything. I've been seeing ghosts my whole life, so let's get into it.
You might as well embrace it at that point. Which
Always.
leads me to, I would love to ask you if there's an early paranormal experience that kind of shaped you a little bit that you'd be
Cool.
willing to share with everyone?
Yeah. So when I was living in my hometown, down the Jersey Shore in Seattle City, my parents had this gorgeous house that they built. And at the top of the stairs was my grandmother's grandfather. And he would just stand there sort of as a shadow man. But it wasn't, I mean, around the time we sort of like joked about it more than confronted it, I think, that there was a shadow man upstairs. And I would see him all the time, but so would a lot of other people in my family. And I didn't I don't know if I connected it 100% at the time that it was spiritual or ghostly or whatever you want to call it, a specter experience. Um, and I recently did a meditation to learn about my guides or ancestors that work with me spiritually. And in the meditation, I'm watching the memory, this specific memory, through his eyes. And yeah, and I think for me that was a critical spiritual experience, um, because years before I had found his, um, so he was from Puerto Rico, and it before it was a United States territory. He had come over with his daughter, my grandmother's mother, um, and had gone through Ellis Island, and I was actually able to find their records of it, and that was a spiritual experience too. But I didn't again make the connection. There's a delay sometimes with working with spirit. Like you feel delayed and like, oh, why didn't I realize it then? But you don't know what you don't know. And having that experience of seeing it, to have that trust from him to reveal that was incredible and kind of connected to really big timelines for me. But that was like an indelible experience, like tattooed on my brain type of experience. Um, so yeah, that was one of them. But I've had God, so many experiences that it's like hard to start somewhere and end somewhere else. Um, oh my God, I can't. Where should I start? Like, I haven't shared this publicly or with anybody yet. But I recently this summer went to the 9/11 museum. And like everybody else, like 9/11 is a very turbulent piece of not just history, but
Right.
like there's a demarcation in my life watching people die like that. I
Hmm.
was in eighth grade at such a young age. Um, and I've spent a lot of time working to understand and learn about the victims as a like act of remembrance. And I went to this part, where they show the flotilla piece of 9/11. So during 9/11, there were hundreds of boats, tugboats, shipping units, personal like boat vehicles that helped like 500,000 some odd people escape from Lower Manhattan to New Jersey. It's amazing. It's just such an incredible piece of that day, which I don't think is very well known. And I wanted to see this film they had on it, 15 minutes. And I sat myself in the back with my back against the wall. And you know how on like the side of screens there's like a space, like empty space, no one's
Yeah.
standing there, there's no chairs or anything. I like see this woman dressed with a collar and like a gray pencil skirt. I don't see her legs or even all the entirety of her arms. She's covered in ash, which to me says that she was alive during I feel like I can see her now, alive during the South Tower falling. And I'm seeing her going like this in just pure shock. 10 seconds, she's gone. That being there is really intense because it's a mass grave. So like you're people who are in tune, you really have to ground yourself before going there. But I had several experiences while I was there, but that one was the most intense one for certain.
Wow. That would have been, it's already like really emotional going somewhere
Yeah.
like that. And that would have just I'm such an empathetic person. I probably would have been like, oh my gosh, like heartbreaking. Ooh,
Yeah, I left feeling like physically wounded. I was drained of energy. First of all, the amount of crying you do is intense because the amount of time that has passed since that event, you lose memory to time. That's just life. There's sounds and video and things from that time that are being played that spark something in your brain that just you literally time travel while you're there, and it's really intense, but it's a really beautiful recognition for the the victims and their families of 9/11. I recommend it, but I recommend it on a day that you expect to feel very deeply. Don't go taking photos. Don't intend to go and take selfies everywhere. It is a mass grave site. So, especially if you are extra sensitive, I think whether or not you're sensitive, but definitely if you are, ground yourself and meditate and be prepared. It it's a lot, but I was not expecting to have that intense of an experience there because there's so many people there that there's a ton of just energy there. Um, but I guess places with a lot of energy make it a lot easier to experience ghosts or spirit.
yeah, that's absolutely true. And we talk about, you hear all the time, oh, 5 people died in this home. It's like, well, you're right
Well,
there.
people, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think ghosts are great. Some are in a lot of pain and they want help, and I was not in a situation to be helpful. That was not. Sometimes you're called to be helpful, and I was not called in that moment to be helpful. I was called to observe, so that's what I did. Um, but I've been around ghosts who are flirtatious, who are spicy, who are silly, who are the human versions of who they were in whatever lifetime they choose to be this ghost, right? Like they want to play, they want to experience what they used to experience. Leaving water out and leaving candy out is very helpful. They need
Yeah.
those things, they want those things. Um, I don't know, just I have respect and honor and dedication, but I also am like, let's let's not fuck around. Or like, you want to fuck around, let's play. You guys want to play? We'll play. I'm down to do it, but like, don't follow me home. Don't come in my dreams. I have boundaries. People who are scared of ghosts and those experiences, in my if the way I metabolize it is this is boundary work in every sense of boundary work. When your boundaries include spirits and ghosts, you're less scared of them. You are prepared to send their asses back to where they came from if you got it right. People who are not in that boundary work, who are not well versed in that, or feeling like their boundaries are prepared, are the ones that are scared. These are where these terrifying stories come from, right? Um, so I think I don't know if I detoured. I think the ADHD kicked in again, but spirit, ghosts, whatever. My whole life, there's too many stories. It's good to have boundaries. It's good to be prepared. If you are uncomfortable in that situation, you say, no, thank you. Go talk to somebody else. Not for me today or ever. And most cases, almost all cases, they will respect and leave you alone because it's a
Yeah.
boundary situation.
And I'm always about, helping people, educating people on like, give yourself the tools you need. Like, if you want to
Yeah,
go and experience those things, give yourself the tools
go.
you need
Mm-hmm.
to feel safe because the fear is only going to make it worse. So get yourself some cleansing tools. Get yourself a good black candle, like whatever it is. Just a firm no often is very helpful. So
Yes. But also, don't be reckless.
no.
Don't be reckless. Don't just do things because you saw it in a
Oh,
film, because you thought it would be funny. Know what you're working with. Understand your tools before you use them. Don't invite things that you think you're not inviting, but they might feel invited. And if they feel invited, guess what they're going to do? They're going to overstay their welcome. So be cognizant of what you're doing and what you're playing with. That's all.
Absolutely. And there's so many resources out there, so
Oh
many
my god.
people out there that you
Mhm.
can learn from and talk to. And just reaching out to someone and being like, hey, I think I'm going to go do this thing. What should
Mhm.
I not do? Is this okay? Like,
Yes.
what if, worst case scenario? Just having like that reassurance of like, okay, I talked to somebody who knows what they're talking about. I think that's so important.
Do you have a favorite ghost story you like to tell?
Oh, goodness. Hmm. Oh, so I work a lot with my ancestors.
Mhm.
A lot. That's pretty much everybody here is an ancestor. And I've worked with a lot of them for a long time. They've been around since we came to this house. There's one ancestor that showed up a lot later than the rest, and I did not know who this guy was. Um, I wouldn't see him a lot, but I would hear him. Um, and every time the lights would be off in the living room. There's a window into the kitchen. I'd walk up to fill my water bottle from the sink, and I'd hear the couch creak and I'd hear the whoosh of air. And I was like, who it, this isn't, I know where everyone is. This is not, and it was just weird. And then a couple times I was doing my little psychic readings,
Mhm.
connected to the living room, and I'd hear him, hey, what's going on? What are we doing? What's going on? And he'd start to panic. I'd be like, hey, buddy, calm down a little
Ooh.
bit. Twice I had to like stop my reading and be like, give me a second. Because he was really panicked. And after a while of just like, he really likes a good piece of bread, sometimes with some butter. And he's a coffee kind of guy. So a couple times, just like, hey, bud, like, here's what's going on. I figured out it is my Uncle Danny, well, he's my grandfather's brother who died at 25. And the
Oh.
reason he always showed up sitting on the couch is this is my favorite story. I've never told this either. Um, when he passed away, my great grandmother, he was 25, he was living at home. Every time he'd come home, he'd come in, sit on the edge of her bed and say, "Hey mom, I'm home. Just wanted to let you know I'm doing okay." She'd be like, "Tell me about your night." He died one night driving home. He fell asleep at the wheel. The next night, his mother is in bed sleeping. I'm getting chills. She's sleeping, and then all of a sudden she wakes up and she sees him come and sit on the edge of her bed. And that's how he showed up to me. He kept sitting on the couch. And he was like, "Hey, I'm here. Like, look." Oh, and it was
Oh.
just like such a moment to realize. And now he's a fun little guy. He still gets a little confused. He's adjusting, but he shows up. My wife is also psychic. He shows up to her. He's always like running around playing jokes. It's a really fun time.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, yeah, I have family members who pass who I get smells
Mm.
more than anything. Perfume, cigarette smoke, um, like the smell of a man walking by, but there's like no man there all the time. So yeah, I spirit likes to show up if they feel like comfortable enough, they're just gonna do it. They're there, they're around.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's such a sweet story. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for asking. I love that. So, something I find when I'm diving into the paranormal, going places on my own or doing investigations, I find having that psychic sense, even just a tad, is so helpful. And I
Mhm.
don't think enough people talk about this. So I would love to hear like your opinion and maybe any really cool experiences that you had.
Yeah, I think it's great because being psychic or having mediumship skills is just having a frequency channel. We're just tuning in. Like I like to ground and meditate and ask my guides for protection, ask my ancestors for protection, just like get in my body before I do any type of work with this and then do my best to like lock it up after the fact. Like move that energy through, take a walk, do something to move the energy and say, we're good. Like we're closed. Um, but I work part time sometimes at a local antique shop, and there are spirits all the time, and they are sassy and funny, and they love to just hang out. And um, I recently made some friends. They're called Nine Lives Paranormal. They're really excellent. They do haunted objects and haunted things and paranormal experiences and ghost hunts, and they've taught me a lot this year too. They're really fantastic. But I didn't exercise with them. And while we were there, we were channeling a man. His name was Tim, and he would not stop flirting with me. It was so funny. And I think he felt so comfortable because I was tuned in and I was tapped in. I was able to channel that, like the knock, or can you make this sound, or can you do this with the light, wasn't appeasing to them. And I channeled like doctor, like what looked like a stethoscope and like a clipboard. And they were making fun of us for being too clinical. And I was like, guys, we're being made fun of. Like, can we ask some more fun questions? So we sort of like switched gears and talked about like drinks he liked or whatever. And he started flirting with me a little bit, which, I'll take it. But I thought it was really fun and interesting. And I don't think it would have gone in that direction had I not channeled that easily. And there's several other instances, like I've been cleaning up the shop and I turn off a light and then that light's back on. And I'm like, did I turn that? I thought I turned that off. Or there are these like bells, like sleigh bells, and you have to, they're antique. So there was a little weight to them, right? So you like really had to push them for them to keep swinging. But they were sort of like swinging out of nowhere to get my attention. And it's like, okay, I see you. Good job. Awesome work. And they'll like do things because it's funny and like, oh, they're trying to be silly and maybe scare you. And I think that's fun. And maybe they would do that with other people, but because I channel, I can get the feeling or the anxieties or the silliness much easier than if it was just a flat, I just want to knock, or I just want a this or that. But in the Paranormal Society's defense, this was a workshop on ghost hunting. So they were going over the basics and what they had to do. So I do not blame them, by the way, for approaching it in the way they did. I thought it was very well done. That instance just changed everything because of the way they ended up interacting with me. And I thought it was very funny.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example of like how that little mediumship piece can really change it. It's like it would have been wonderful on its own, but that really helped to just feel things along.
Yeah, it did. And I think it was a good lesson that maybe I hadn't considered in that moment either. I did take it as a teaching moment that when I approach these things, or if I'm asked to join, or I do it for fun with friends or whatever, I know I'm not going to ask the classic questions. I'm going to ask what their favorite color was, or, you know, did they have a favorite book of that time? Or if it's a more recent one, what was your favorite movie or musical artist or whatever? And to, to just give them that human decency that they are looking for in reality, right? Like, it doesn't need to be a tragic ghost story, and it doesn't need to be like a cinematic level of a ghost hunt, right? Because day-to-day people aren't cinematic and dramatic in that way, right? Like, they just want to be recognized as like they were people, they had feelings, they had interests, and we kind of want to bring that back to them in some way if we're asking them to give up so much of their energy to interact with us, right? So we might as well do it in a way that's advantageous for all of us, and everyone gets to have a good time and leave feeling happy and good about the situation. Like, it doesn't have to be a Halloween experience.
Right, right. And it's like wouldn't you get exhausted of being asked over and over how did you die? Doesn't sound
Oh,
fun.
oh. Like, yes, 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 of course I know how to do it.
So, what are some like really or a common misconception about the paranormal and that kind of spirit that you hear a lot that is not true in your experience?
That's a good question.
I love asking these questions.
I do think in a lot of instances, things have been cliche. Like, things are cliche in a lot of cases for a reason. I would say I've had a lot of cliche focused experiences, but I think the most surprising piece of it is how human I feel after the experience. I don't feel scared. I don't feel like I want to run. Like, it's not a Scooby Doo situation, right? Like, I'm not trying to get out of there as quickly as possible. I think what I feel is like a reinforcement of like the earthly spirits we are, like the earthly beings we are. And as a spiritual person, as an Aquarian, as a medium, I feel very comfortable when I'm like super tapped in and working with spirit. Like, I feel at home there. But there's a level of, I'm here right now. I need to be connected and tapped into my earthly experience. And sometimes when you leave these ghostly situations or this paranormal situation, you leave like feeling so present in your body and so present in the exact time you're in that it's taken me a long time to acknowledge that that's exactly what I feel after I've left. Like it knocks the air out of your lungs, like contemplating what an afterlife could or should or might look like. But to get there, to graduate to that, you need to like really be here and like really feel what's happening. And I always find that experience so interesting and challenging post paranormal experience.
Mm, mm. I think that's a good way to put it. You do really tap into the humanness of it all. And I think I often tap into the wow, like this time is so short. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's an infinite time after and before, but this time is so short and it's kind of like regrounding you in the like live in the moment every day. And I don't take that as like a spooky thing. I really love remembering how sweet and short life is. I think it's a good reminder.
And I do, as someone who struggles with mental health things, I do think it's a good tool to keep a lot of this at bay. It's part of getting stuck in the loop of mental illness, in my experience, is being so scared of everything, being so scared of results or being scared of rejection or like the fear of it all. But like, not for nothing, I'm not really scared of confrontation with people, earthly beings, whatever. I think using that skill with spirit, with the other beings, is a way to remind yourself, focus on what you got, focus on what's in front of you, because this is it. And wasting your time borrowing grief from the future, borrowing rejection that hasn't happened, borrowing and hypothesizing and trying to solve equations that haven't been written is a waste of time, and you are missing what is happening. And that is a way to truly ground you and pull you back to earth, is when you confront that with spirit, when you confront that in these paranormal situations. Like, oh shit, like I could be the person they're like trying to make the light go on and off for in the future, but like I'm here right now. I can turn that light on myself right now. I can find the light right now. So why am I not doing it? And I do appreciate that about the spiritual, paranormal, whatever experience. Just be here. You are here. What can you control now? Do that now. And I really do appreciate that about helping me heal lots of parts of myself, heal a lot of fears that I've had about the world around me, and just be here.
Wow, that everything you just said gave me so many shivers. Like, oh, that hit on a deep level. Thank you so much. I love that.
Oh, thank you for letting me share. Yeah, I think that's been something I've been coming to terms with recently. Like, I give myself credit for understanding why I felt that way and like the circumstances that led to that, but like don't need to keep doing it. Don't need to keep doing it. So why keep doing it? It gives you perspective on that. Like they're not here, but look what they're still doing. Communicating, still flirting with women, still having a good time, still doing something else. If they can do it, why not me?
And if they're doing it after they're dead, like they must have liked it when they were alive. So like take part,
Yes,
friend.
yes, exactly. And I love that. And I love the point is joy. That's the point. That is the point. What brings you joy? What is it? And what roadblocks, what challenges can you remove? For me, it's like putting down the mental health battle. I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, sure. I get it. Things are going to pop out. Things are going to happen that are going to make those anxieties come back or like spark my OCD into some sort of spiral. But I went out of my way to get those tools. That's removing a roadblock. Confronting myself as a earthly being and a spiritual being. That's removing roadblocks. Accepting who I am as a sense of self, as a sense of what I believe in, having conviction. That's removing a roadblock and threading that needle through all of them and using the tools of the spirit to say, like, I can have a full, happy life. I just have to choose, I have to make good choices. My mom wants to say that, but it's so true. You just have to make good choices. You can choose to do better. You can choose to make it what you want to make it. And it sounds so high school yearbook quote, but like it's so annoying when people give you good advice and then the advice turns out to be true. Like, I thought I was right. Like, ah, I get it. It's annoying. It's annoying to hear from anybody. People listening who are frustrated with their situations or mental health feelings. I've been in the spot where you're like, girl, shut up. Like, you don't even understand. Like, no, maybe I don't understand on the exact personal route you're on, but I do understand on the collective level. Like, hey, we get to choose, guys, and we get to have choices to have fun. And Spirit wants to remind us of that. And they want us to do that. That's what they want for us. And I don't know. I love that. I love that. That's what this work gives us, gives the collective, gives the world.
Yeah. And I think even if you're in an awful situation that you can't control, you can still make little choices every day to make yourself a cup of coffee with a little extra sugar, to take an extra long shower. Like little tiny things do add up. And I think that's a really important thing to remember.
The little things are the big things.
Yeah.
You don't need a massive bank account to make the world magical for you. A lot of spiritual work and witchcraft and even religious work is done with the tools in your household, in nature, outside of your house. What's with the words in your soul, the words you can transcribe? That is spiritual work. And those are little magics. Is putting up fairy lights in your bedroom going to make you happy and add magic to your life? Do it. Is listening to your favorite mixtape 17 times a day going to make you happy? Do it. And then, so when I was in therapy, a lot of work is like desensitizing yourself to enjoyment and fun and permission to permission to. And I definitely want to encourage people to like desensitize yourself to giving yourself permission to have fun, to forgive yourself. Desensitize forgiveness to yourself. Desensitize yourself to taking rejection so hard to heart. It wasn't for you. What is yours, and it'll come to you. And like really lean into that. And I think that's all part of this magical practice, the spiritual practice. You have the choice too. So go do it. Go do it. As long as you're not hurting yourself or others, like I said, go do it.
Absolutely. Mm. Probably one of my favorite little segments here of those inspirational channeled words. Love that.
Thank you. You can usually tell when I'm channeling because my eyes like glaze over and we're in until it's over.
We're here for it. And that perfectly runs us to our last question. And it's the question I love to ask everybody. If you could choose any legacy to leave behind in this world, what legacy would you choose to leave behind?
Oh, um, I don't get hung up or think about legacy really. It's not important to me, but to answer the question, I just hope that people take away that like kindness matters and that I was somehow a vehicle for love and kindness in the face of fear or hopelessness, that they found the time that they've spent with me, whatever that means, to feel encouraged to be kinder to themselves or to someone around them. And look, guys, I get it. Not everyone deserves it. Please. Shadow work has taught me not everyone is deserving, and you don't have to give it out. That doesn't mean have boundaries, but like kindness to yourself is having boundaries and saying no. And like, if that's what you can take away, if that's my legacy, it's to be the baddest baddie that you are and lean into the kindness you can share holding strong to your boundaries and having conviction, then I will feel good about it. I will feel good about this time spent in this earthly body.
Mm, I love that. I love that. And I also love that you aren't hung up on the legacy part. I love that because it is a good thing to reflect on every once in a while, but I think you can also get really hung up on that too, on like
It
trying to
does.
reach an impossible goal because
Yeah.
you
And
don't have a legacy till you're gone.
yeah. And like, I do think I, for, I think sometimes it plays into maybe our worst instincts of like, what does my ego really need to be fed in this moment to validate something that's, like you said, unattainable? Like, that's going to be my legacy. Like, does that have to be your legacy? Do you have to have one though? Can't you just like be loved by your community in some regard and like, that's enough? That's enough for me. That's enough.
Yeah, live in the moment. Just live your happiest life.
Yeah, that's all I should do. That's it. That's the point.
Well, thank you again so much. Could you quickly tell everyone where they can find you if they're interested in learning more about you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This has been just such
Of
a
course.
great, wonderful time. I've had such a lovely time. You can find me at sirenbooks.org, at siren.books on Instagram, and sign up for my newsletter, buy some books there. I recently just launched used books. I have amassed a nice collection of eclectic books that I'm looking to sell to a lovely, loving home. You can find my essays on the website under the Siren Song blog. I don't just write essays, I write blog posts about a whole bunch of different topics, including identifying if you've had a ghostly or paranormal experience. And yeah, and that's about it.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to connect. I had so much fun today.
This has been a blast. I'm so appreciative. Thank you for considering me and having me.
Thank you so much. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I'd love to know what your biggest takeaway from this interview was, so comment that down below. And if you like this kind of podcast, be sure to give the video a like so I know to make more of them. And go ahead and subscribe to the channel to get more content like this. I would love to have you stick around for some of my practical witchcraft tips. While you're at it, you can check out my links in the description to see all of the different things I do. Until next time, be well, be kind, and may your curiosity for this world and the next never fade.